Welcome to the show. I am MMA insider and Herb Dean's dog sitter, Joey Venti, and you're listening to the MMA History Podcast, the only podcast dedicated 100% to the preservation of mixed martial arts history. Interviews and stories about the early days of MMA direct from the men who lived it. Hundreds of interviews, thousands of hours of research, all conducted by the most obsessed mind in the business, the MMA detective Mike Davis. Join us as we document the history of the sport we all love. Welcome back to the MMA History Podcast. I am Joey Venti. I'm here with the MMA detective Mike Davis, and today we have a special show. Today's guest is a UFC veteran, a coach, and one of the most prolific MMA promoters in the history of the sport. Owner of Gladiator Challenge, Ted Williams. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you guys.
So Ted, your career obviously goes in many different directions. Like there's a lot going on with you, and you kind of see every era. You were there during No Holds Barred, the headbutt era, and then you got to the point where, oh, that's a bad word now. Now it's mixed martial arts, and
right
now we're kind of in, I don't know what we're calling this. I'm sure years from now they'll have a name for this, for this section of mixed martial arts. But you've literally been there from the beginning.
Yep. I thank God that I was actually a pioneer in this sport, not necessarily a world champ, not necessarily one of the best at the promotions, but honestly, from the beginning to end, kind of part of all of it. So it's been a blessing anyway.
All right. So you're a high-end wrestler in college. You join the military, and then you pick up Sambo, which is really unheard of in the 90s, 80s, and 90s. Like it didn't really get here until like the Russians came in the UFC.
Right.
How does that happen?
Well, before I got into college wrestling in high school, I had some knee operations, had some problems. So I was trying to figure out ways I could be an effective takedown artist without having to shoot in. So I started going to judo classes. So that's at one point where I ended up meeting Gene LeBell and some other characters. But in my life, because of knee injuries and stuff, I really couldn't shoot in and penetrate like some guys did. So I used a lot of foot sweeps and throws. And as I progressed, Sambo became a big part of that.
Okay. So you started with Gene LeBell. Like your combat sports journey then starts with Gene LeBell.
Kind of. I started with Gene LeBell. I believe it was Gene LeBell's coach, John Ogden. John Ogden was a 6-time junior Olympic coach for the United States, and I was one of his black belts. And he introduced me just before I got my black belt. He actually introduced me to Gene LeBell, and he was in Long Beach, North Long Beach, and Gene was down in Hollywood. And so I was in the high desert Apple Valley area. So I'd literally go down and do judo once or twice a week. I'd go down to Hollywood and go do jiu-jitsu and with a handful of guys there, especially Gene. So that's kind of where I got my start anyway with Sambo.
Okay. So Gene LeBell, guys like John Perretti, John Donahue, guys obviously that you've shared the mat with, they describe his body almost like orc, like they're saying like, and he almost had like an inhuman type build when like he grabbed a hold of you or you felt him. What was your experience like touching Gene on the mat?
I appreciate you bringing that up, because if you've been there and done that enough, you can feel it. You kind of understand it without even having to. And Gene always was just, I knew him as a kid. So I started kind of training with him when I was like 17, 18, 19, that sort of thing. So I wasn't done yet. I had a lot to learn back then still. And just literally one thing after another, he was able to, kind of touch you and get your respect real quick. And so he was definitely a God-blessed individual that had different strengths about him which we needed. We needed somebody back then to stand up and say there was something good about the United States judo and jiu-jitsu, because really the Gracies were shining, and he actually kind of back in the day fought Milo Savage, and he did some other things to kind of put his name out there.
It's the first mixed martial arts event
Yes.
ever sanctioned in the United States,
right?
Like Milo Savage versus Gene LeBell. Yeah. On TV, nonetheless.
Yeah.
So you're on the mat with some all-stars, obviously, at this time, probably guys that you had no idea would be where they're at.
Right.
John Perretti, another brilliant mind, a mixed martial arts pioneer.
Yeah.
What was your experience like with him on the mat?
Oh, he's more. I had a unique experience with him because from meeting him in the dojo in Hollywood, more of a technician, and it taught you a lot. He'd take the time to teach you a lot. But then all of a sudden, because of his connection with the UFC, I don't know if you know, but if you go back to Bas Rutten Invitationals,
yes, he was a referee. Yeah, he's a referee. It's actually his event, his ring.
So that's kind of how I got my start. I was fighting in a show in Colorado. John was the actual referee and had to tell me, like, Ted, like 4 times. You got to open your hand. You can't close it. In Colorado, there was no closed fist. I was fighting this big, gigantic guy. I was having a problem taking him down. It was frustrating. By the time I got him down, I just forgot. And I was gone. And then John kind of janked me off. But really good guy. And then he was the guy that helped get a contract for me as far as the UFC too.
Okay. Did you ever share the mat with John Lewis?
He was there a few times. I've never really trained with him, but he comes from great stock and similar folks that I'm touching too. But really, I think we missed each other a lot.
Okay. So Silverado, I think, was probably before you then?
Yeah.
Okay. And John Donahue, did you ever?
Yeah. I don't know a lot. I mean, I know those guys, but I haven't had the training experience with them.
Okay.
When I was coming down from Apple Valley, it was twice a week training with Gokar and training with Gene, and back then with like Little Caro and some of the guys that were only 14 or 16 but became monsters.
Yeah, Manny Gambarian, another one.
Yeah, just monsters. Yeah.
Okay. So then who was your main Sambo instructor then? Like your first real Sambo instructor?
It would be Gene. Through Gene and Gokar. Okay. I was, but then, I had the unique experience. I believe it was I think it was 1997. I was in the AAU National Championships in Sambo, and just so happens that the Russian Bear was like being honored there. And then they asked him to be a referee as part of the national Sambos there. And he refereed my finals match. That kind of,
are you talking about Oleg Taktarov?
Oleg Taktarov, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So Oleg Taktarov, it was back in 1997, I believe, in Bakersfield, California, at the AAU National Championships. I was competing, and normally he wasn't reffing, but he got to reffing specifically some of the finals. And my match, I had won it, and we created a great relationship.
Another American Sambo standout, obviously, is Ron Tripp.
Yeah. As far as the training I did, most of my training back then was to make me a better wrestler. I wouldn't claim I was a Sambo guy or I was a jiu-jitsu guy. I was a wrestler. And so I would do a lot of, there's a guy named Steve Burak from Colorado Springs. If you go back, he was in a lot of the, second, thirds, and fourths in the heavyweight division in the worlds in Sambo. Good friend of mine, and I train a lot in it. My whole goal was to make me a better, effective wrestler, really. So, and then, as I started training with Gene and that sort of thing, everything changed from wrestling into fighting. Wasn't necessarily, to be the best judo guy or the, most talented Sambo guy. It was just that's why I called my stuff combat grappling, because it was kind of bringing all of it together.
So Joey, where he's at, he's over by Temecula. Guess whose father had a famous kids club? The Victorville Jets.
Yeah, Henderson out there.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
he was in Victorville. I thought they were in Santa.
That was after Santa Barbara. Yeah. After that, but before that, it was up in the high desert, and there was some Stud kids, yeah. And the Jets, you know what it stands for?
Go ahead.
Junior Elite Team Training Squad. And they really did it. I remember, this goes back, I think in 1987, I traveled from Long Beach all the way down to San Clemente or somewhere down to go to one of the Jets practices because I wanted to kind of shine and challenge their 90-pounder and say I wanted on the team and be that guy. But I got to the practice. I was able to practice one time. But anyway, that was my extent back then. Then later, Tom, that's Henderson's dad, I'd asked him, I said, listen, I'm going to start a kids program up in the high desert. I'd love to call it the Jets program, not in any competition or in any kind of like what they've accomplished.
Like affiliation. Yeah.
But yeah, just the fact is they were studs. I'd love to tell you all about them. And I was part of it in a small way. And I got to continue to grow it in a small way, which was huge. So we have, I want to say 7, 8, 10 years of kids wrestling through that program. My kids too, that we got to help touch and be part of, which is what the sport's all about.
So Joey, that's the Jets program was kind of like the Sun-Kissed Kids, before the Sun-Kissed Kids like existed. It was, I would even say the Sun-Kissed Kids kind of borrowed of what the Jets were doing. Yeah.
Larry Landless was part of that organization when they were in San Clemente.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's absolutely fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Larry Landless very well.
All right. So in May of 2002, Universal Above Ground Fighting takes place. Antonio McKee, very colorful person in regards to storytelling, like one of my all-time favorite people just to shut up and listen to. He claims it was you and Darren Dodson as promoters with him financially backing it.
Listen, Antonio and me go back from enemies to good dudes to wrestling in college together. In no way, shape, or form was I financially supporting that.
He was financially supporting it, but you were promoting with Darren Dodson.
Was that in Arizona?
No, it was in California. Dude, the cards are amazing. They're amazing.
Yeah, I don't think I was really part of those, to be honest. I really don't. I was part of, that's where I kind of re-met him later, getting back from the wrestling game into the MMA game. There's years apart there. And I kind of, it was a unique story when I met him, because if you know Antonio, if you really know Antonio just from the ability, you could put him against anybody and beat him. But the problem is you could beat Antonio because he'd try to say I'm a better wrestler and I could beat you at this, and then he'd leave, maybe expose his ankles, or he exposed a part of his game that he never had to. It just never had to go there. He could dominate him if he fought a certain way. And anyway, we got to come back together as friends from wrestling to MMA. I don't know what shows he was talking about back then, but we did do a lot back before we started doing a lot of bigger shows. But you have to bring it up to me. I really don't know.
Okay, here. I mean, I'll just tell you. I was washing drug money, and Ted Williams was the promoter to build my record.
God is my witness. I've never been on that show or promoted him, but
that's my best imitation.
And I know Antonio. We go back, but I don't think I was any part of those shows, to be honest.
Okay, Kara Parisian fought Antonio at the third event, I believe. You don't remember? Okay. You'd remember that fight.
No, I wasn't part of it for sure.
Okay,
of course I would know that.
Okay, right. Yeah. Were you at Antonio's wrestling match when he beat John Smith?
No, I wasn't. Yeah, that was I've heard the story. I could, I've heard the story. He just went in there to beat him. He beat him and walked out and didn't finish the tournament, basically. But that was we came from Cerritos College, and we were a real tough junior college. Not just in California, but nationally ranked stud team. And I don't know, man. He and a whole bunch of guys, Scott Tracer with Armando Morales. There were so many guys kind of just like him that pushed him, and I don't know if back then, that first year of junior college, I don't think anybody even scored 1 point on Antonio.
That's
at
nuts.
one point. And I think it
That's
was in
nuts.
between then, or maybe the second years when he went out and beat John Smith.
His words. Usually we try to do like a 70-30 mix where the guest speaks 70% of the time. Joey and I will interact 30% of the time. And that's like the ingredients for a really good interview. With Antonio, it was more like 5%, 95%.
Yeah.
So
yeah, big time.
Did you ever pull a gun on you?
You know, I somebody told me a story that he said he pulled a gun on me, but I could tell you, like, you know, like one of my sons is sitting right here to the left of me. When he came up to my house one time, I unloaded 3 rifles, actually cleared them, pulled the trigger, it shot. Nobody knows that, but I handed 3 rifles out, surrounded my property when he came out just to scare him. I pulled guns out on him. I don't recall him ever pulling out a gun on me, to be honest. But we had a rough background back in the day, and you know, his high school, Long Beach Poly. I came from Long Beach, Jordan, and we just didn't like each other, you know, at all.
Yeah, Antonio's an acquired taste.
Yeah. And if you know anything about it, you guys would have touched and talked to a lot of these guys. Real, you know, I don't look at myself as one of the best heavyweights out there. I've touched a few, I've beat a few, but some guys are just blessed by God in a way that, and he's one of them. He's blessed in his speed and strength and talent, and he's been able to do amazing things with a lot less effort than most of us, put it that way.
Dude, that guy, like, and he's actually like really smart too. Like he's really smart.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
he's really smart, really athletic.
Absolutely.
Like the body shop. Look at his gym.
Yeah. He's done really well with his gym,
and he can coach. You know? Wild. Absolutely wild. Right. So King of the Cage 1 is October 30th, 1999. It's called like Bas Rutten. That's the name of the event. So
it's Bas Rutten King of the Cage, we call it.
Bas Rutten King of the Cage, and you were the matchmaker.
Yeah. At the time, it was a 50-50 partner between me and Terry. I came from the fighting side, knew obviously Bas. I helped train Bas for some fights and stuff. So I had relationships with Gene LeBell. I had all these different relationships in this world, and Terry had the business relationship. So we came together and started those fights. You know, as far as Gladiator Challenge, King of the Cage, it used to be one company. Both of us owned, in the sense, 50-50. But from the very, very get-go, it was that way.
So Antonio, like I said, like you got to remember, like, we keep timestamps in order to create like a database. Right. So when guys like you come on, okay, you know, Ted Williams is mentioned here. Let's just go listen again.
Yeah.
The guy that did our timestamps for Antonio, like he was ready to jump out of a moving car because of how much was going to be thrown at us. And he said you worked for a doctor that was friends with Terry Trebilcock, and you kind of had to bite the bullet with him, with Terry.
What does that mean?
It really wasn't a pleasant relationship from the start, but you had to kind of deal with it.
No, listen, it's real simple, man. And I hate the fact that, because I know Terry very well, he may not let this out just because he's fairly litigious kind of guy, and he has people sold on a different thing, but it's pretty simple. Me and him started, I can tell you exactly how, even. Me and him started this company, and we were rock fire, bro. We were on fire. We did amazing things together. His ability to go contract things, my ability to assemble men and execute, it was amazing. It really was. And so I thought we had closer than family relationships for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years. Never cared about a signature on a contract, nothing like that. And then, you know, all these sour things happened. And obviously, you know, think about it. If we're both 50-50 in the company, I should have been part of all that went on with Pro Elite, and I should have been part of the sell of the company and some other stuff. Terry was always the contractual guy. He made sure we were on pay-per-view. He made sure we were in casinos. He made sure we had, 3 or 4 fights a month. I made sure we had the fight cards, the staff, and everything in between. And it was a great relationship. So, anybody that says like in the beginning, no, bro, we were like fire. We were like studs. We were doing some amazing things. It got to a point there's a lot of money.
You guys had different visions too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And by the way, I can tell you now, I was just immature. If I shook your hand, you said something, I'd take it to the grave. That's what it was. Evidently, it wasn't that way with him and I. There was some missing signatures, and that's why dollars didn't get spread certain ways. And oh my goodnesses, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I learned a lot from it. I can honestly tell you, I learned a lot from it. I had to retool my own company, separating from King of the Cage. And am I going to be exist in this space and kind of by myself, and the grace of God was able to retool and create a footprint so we could still produce studs.
You know what? It helped you. It helped you kind of.
It did
scale. Yeah. It helped you scale.
Well, let me tell you just so you know. I walk into a gymnasium called Cardio Fit. I'm walking in. Terry don't know me. I don't know him. And I just happen to watch all these guys doing submissions and stuff. And I tell Terry, who's running the gym, he's the manager, I tell him I do that kind of stuff. That's how Terry and I met. He was a gym manager. He had a UFC program where they were trying to choke and punch people in a racquetball room. I went in there and kind of handled everybody. He said, "Would you like to start teaching?" And that's how we started a friendship and a relationship way, way, way back.
So did Terry come from like the, what do you call it? The tough man world, the tough man competitions pre-MMA?
No, the gym business.
Okay. That's fair.
What made Terry, I think, unique is he had a very, like in the 24-hour fitness type of business, pre-selling gyms, opening up gyms. And he was a very successful guy in that world. But the point is, with me anyway, he was 2 or 3 gears ahead of me in business.
Okay.
And but
you learned. So
I would have done it differently, of course. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, and you guys had 100% different visions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
Yeah, just different guys.
Dude, Bellator should have never existed. They should never have been
right.
Gotten off the launching pad. Had King of the Cage been run right. That's
right.
Yeah. So Joey, this is kind of like when there's like you're kind of scratching your head. So King of the Cage 1 is October 30th, 1999. It's at Saboba Casino. Gladiator Challenge 1 is December 9th, 2000. So it's a few months later at the exact same casino.
I was at both of them. Yeah. Joe Camacho fought on this card. I was there.
Yeah. So
does that mean there's trouble?
Oh my God, dude, you cannot have 2 events run out of the same venue. No, that's how a civil war starts.
Well, the way we started it back then, guys, and it worked really well. I'm telling you, it was like magic. What we on paper, we created a kind of a hub and kind of spoke. The Gladiator Challenge, even in the same venues, would go find the talent, and once they either got my strap, my belt, or was one of those guys, we'd push them into and make them, either a main event or a challenger in the Gladiator in the King of the Cage. And so we would often bring a Gladiator Challenge, run 2 shows, and then capitalize it with a big direct TV show from King of the Cage. Or it was a win-win. You think about it. When I went back into those communities, I went back to those schools and fighters. I was like, look, guys, last week we're all on direct TV. Let's do this again. And nobody else was back then, so it was a really good model. It was working for a long time anyway.
Muted, Mike.
How many people does a Saboba fit, out of curiosity?
Well, it depends. I mean, when we were inside the sprung structure. That was probably, maybe 1,200, 1,500. But from the very first show, we had to blow it out the seams. We probably put a couple thousand people in there. Then we went outside. It was a sprung structure with open ends. That was probably more like 3,000 or 4,000. And then there was the big It's a 10,000 seat venue. We usually squatted half of it and put in 5,000 or 6,000 people if in our bigger shows.
So Saboba is set up like that. You can go from 1,500 to 10,000 depending on the size.
Yeah, and it's very changed there. That all that stuff is like dry water. If you drive through, it's like a ghost town there. They've rebuilt a new casino like right down the block. They have a small venue. They have, but back then we were probably one of the main things that was pushing that kind of a venue, seating capacity and that sort of thing.
So you had Eddie Bravo, like your first event is not recorded, but your second event on is, like, it's incredibly prolific. The number of events you put together and recorded them.
Yeah. And there's some, people don't know, some I didn't record. There was years that, this was truly pioneers in the sport. If you've seen that show we did in Colorado, I forget what part of. Anyhow, I had
about the IFC show. Were you with Paul Smith?
No, there was a Gladiator challenge at the Grand Terrence. What was it? The Radisson. Yeah, the Radisson in Colorado, Thornton, Colorado. Anyway, I took like 18 people from California. We took them in. I mean, I had people wall to wall sleeping in hotel, wall to wall sleeping outside in my truck. We were doing whatever it took to push this sport. I mean, there was no money to be able to pay for all that kind of stuff. But, slowly but surely, it started going from the human cockfighting kind of side to like the prolific MMA side.
So Joey, Ted's career actually totaled 16 months.
Got a lot in them.
He was like on a 50 Fight Club type pace.
Right.
On that 16-month period. Yeah. Ted, if you look at your first fight, it's Empire Submission Fighting, May 15th, 1999. Robert Burnell. Joey, pull that card.
Yeah.
Cards up.
Yeah. What do you remember about, walking the aisle for the first time?
Yeah, that was a cool thing. That was our first fight. That was the beginning of King of the Cage. That was on a tennis court. We removed the net.
That's
we
right.
Set up the cage. I hired Gene LeBell as our ref. It was on one side where, I'm setting up the fight with Terry and and then of course Terry didn't fight, but I actually fought in that show. Going back then, it was different because most of us, like I was a good college wrestler or I was a good grappler, but most of us, we didn't punch, no one ever taught me how to punch. And so you getting out there and trying it for the first time, regardless how tough you were, it was kind of it was quite an experience in the beginning. That's for sure.
Okay. So that Empire Fighting series allowed you guys to get into the Saboba.
Yeah.
Jerry, read some of the names on that card.
Main event is Javi Vasquez fighting Louis Ceredez, Victor Hudsaker, big name,
Yeah,
Brian Warren, Rodrigo Teixeira, Joe Stevenson, Joe Camacho, Caro Parisian. Yeah, big names for a fight taking place at a tennis court.
Right. Pretty
Good
cool,
names.
man. Yeah, it was awesome, man.
Look at the first fight. Is that the one Crazy Horse is on?
Our fight? No.
No, it's not. No. He's on one of the cards. He's on one of the cards.
A lot of cards.
Yeah.
I had him fight Urijah Faber. I had him fight some good fights. Yeah. Yeah, good fight.
Yeah, he fought Dwayne Ludwig. Cage too. He fought a lot for you guys.
A horse.
And then your second fight is June 1st, 1999, the Bas Rutten Invitational, obviously out in Colorado. Did you know this was like a John Perretti show prior to getting there, or did you kind of find that out when you got there?
Yeah. So no, what was going on back then is, you remember, you probably guys know Todd Hester. Todd Hester from the Grappling magazine. He had a great publication. Yeah. So he turned me on to Bas Rutten, who had a upcoming, UFC contract, and he needed some help with the, not letting folks take him down. He was great at all kinds of parts of his game, but he needed some help. So I got at the, in the beginning there, Todd Hester introduced me to Bas Rutten. And so I was out there with Bas Rutten to help him train for upcoming UFCs. And we actually stayed in a hotel together. And, that was the beginning of our relationship too, as far as training, not just the fighting.
Yeah, I got you worked out with Bas at UFC 18th, January 9th, 1999, in preparation for TK.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're at an underground fight. Todd Hester comes to me and says, hey, Bas Rutten, Ted Williams, Bas. He introduced us. Basically, Bas we knew TK was going to shoot on him. And Bas was very experienced with shots anyway, but if you look at pancreation, they would kind of drop into the guard, and they wanted some other kind of training. And so I was able to get to know him and start helping him train, stopping, guys taking him down and that sort of thing.
Was this at Beverly Hills Jiu-Jitsu Club?
We started there, yeah.
Okay, so you were there with Marco Huas, Pedro Hizo, Mark Kerr.
I didn't have classes there. I came there specifically to train Bas Rutten we had 2 fights, the one TK and then one with Randleman. Those 2 fights, I was cornering, training. Bas would come up to my school up in the high desert. Mainly, I would come down to wherever he was and help him.
Who else was in the room with you with that? Do you remember?
When we would train?
Yeah, like when you were training him for TK. Were any of the after?
I remember Daryl
Golar.
I remember Daryl was there all the time. Stud wrestler. There was a couple of Brazilian really good kickboxers in there. I really couldn't tell you, to be honest. I'm not really sure.
It had been Hizo.
Yeah. As far as who came in there throughout our practices, absolutely, Pedro Hizo, Marco Huas. There was a lot of guys that would come in there because they were there at Beverly Hills Jiu-Jitsu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like if you look at California as a whole, Gracie's. I mean, they dominated the headlines in regards to submissions, like the early days.
Yeah.
But then you had Ken Shamrock doing shoot fighting. You had Gene LeBell. You had Joe Moreira. Like, California was the absolute hub outside of Brazil. I mean, you can make an argument for Japan as well, but in the United States, California had like 90% of the people doing submissions at a very early time.
Really neat. Yeah, it was a hub. No matter what room you were in, there were some tough guys, and you always got pushed, and it seemed like it was everybody against the Brazilians back then.
So you fought Joseph Marquez, who was a very large gentleman in your second fight.
Was that the one in Colorado?
Yeah, it was in Colorado. Yeah.
He
was like
Crazy
6'7". Yeah, 6'7".
Yeah, if you watch the fight, I couldn't take him down. I thought for sure I'd easily take him down. Couldn't take him down. It was an eye-opening experience for me. I was trying to do stuff that worked in wrestling. It wasn't working in MMA. Finally got him down, and that's when Perretti pulled me off him and stopped the fight. But I had closed fist punched him a handful of times. It was supposed to be open hand strikes at the time.
Dude, Joey, Joseph Marquez's cup comes out at one point, and everyone's just kind of looking at each other, and Perretti's just
what was that?
Perretti's just like, all right, fight. We're not dealing with this. Yeah.
Right.
In the cage wall was like just underneath your chest high.
Yeah, it was small.
Somebody could have got hurt if that's
right. That was Bas Rutten's ring. It was a circle, I believe. We fought it in a circle back then.
Yeah, I thought
it
they
was
used
short.
the battle cage.
For that, he was a big dude, so he's big as a door when you look at it. It wasn't all that tough of a guy, but a huge dude.
Yeah, Joey, it's the battle cage.
Yeah.
It's the one they use for contenders. The contenders.
That's right, for Enzo, yeah.
But it wasn't built for a guy who's 6'7".
No.
That's right. Yeah.
That's when Perretti says that he doesn't know where it went. He doesn't know who has the cage.
I just asked Joe Gold, and he said he doesn't know either. Well, we're still hunting it down.
The Lionheart Invitational is in Atlanta. It's September 1st, 1999. So if you look here, you got 3 fights in like 4 or 5 months. Travis Fulton. This is where Charles Bennett's on the card. This is where they find Charles Bennett. Yeah. So it's in Atlanta, and you got Travis Fulton as your opponent, who's a very experienced. And this is like Travis Fulton, the fighter, not, I mean, although he was a molester, and he was certainly padding his record at this time, but he actually was a fighter at this period of his career.
I went out there to fight somebody else. It was a Mike Delana or something that. So
wait, Mike Delaney?
I went out there to fight him
from Wisconsin.
I'm not sure where.
Yeah, I know he's from Wisconsin. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know where. Anyway, either he didn't fight that night, but the promoter said, "Listen, you can't fight unless you fight." And then he gave me Travis Fulton. Now I should have. I was like, "Sure, no problem." I really didn't know who Travis Fulton was at the time, but I could tell you it was really cool. I was in the locker room trying to get ready, and hey, who you fighting? That's common language in the locker room. Hey, who are you fighting? Yeah. And every time I said Travis Fulton, the guys would go, "Whoa," So I knew I was probably going to get punched. But I had no idea who Travis was before I fought him.
Yeah, and obviously, go ahead, Joey.
And this one went 20 minutes. What was that experience like? Actually having to go the distance.
Yeah. So there was 2 fights that went real long. So with the Travis Fulton fight, I learned, if you watch the fight, I was training with Bas Rutten to help him stop a takedown artist, the TK, and the kind of the wrestler. But Bas was not yet really training me how to use my hands yet. So we were at a transition period where I really didn't know what I was doing on my feet at all. And after he hit me once, I think I just became, a different kind of guy. I learned how to throw elbows. I learned a lot in that one fight with Travis. But
he's crafty. He's crafty. Yeah, Fulton was very, very, very crafty at this period in his career, for sure. Yeah. For sure. And, if we were to end on a positive note about Travis Fulton, the very last thing he did while here on Earth was the right thing. Yeah, he did the right thing at the very last thing. October 9th, 1999. So you're like 5 weeks. I mean, you're not really training to learn at this point. You're training to stay in shape for your next fight. Yeah. You fight for one of the greatest promoters ever, Jamie Levine.
Yeah, Jamie Levine.
I'm sure you got paid on this one.
Yeah, I think I got paid, but I was supposed to get my video. I fought a guy. I was supposed to get the films of Tim, Antonio, Curtis, and me all fought on the same card there, my guys, and I was supposed to get film from them because I was helping build their portfolio. Never got that, but that was back then. It was I think it was Conan versus Morris Smith as the main event. Pretty cool fights. Yeah.
Curtis, great card. Yeah, who's on a Curtis? What's his last name?
McWaters.
Oh, sorry, I got his name. Okay, I was hoping. Yeah, you know what? He also fought. You guys all traveled together. Yeah. So Joe Campanella, Joey, his record.
His record is 1-7. Joe Campanella. His record is 1-7, but it's against all killers.
Oh, dude.
Who the hell was managing this guy?
Absolute murderers. Yeah.
Well,
was he a last minute replacement?
Huh?
Was he a last minute replacement?
No. I don't know. Levine, I think, needed help with the card, filling spots. I could bring fighters. So I think he gave me a kind of that guy. He put on, I think it was Antonio and Curtis McWaters too. But I remember I had a huge infection on my leg and it was oozing. Oh. So I went in the bathroom. I wrapped it really tight, and I was afraid to death. I don't know who this Joe Campanella guy was. Everybody told me he was going to kick me, and I was afraid he was going to kick my leg. So I tried to make it a quick fight, and I think it only lasted, 20 seconds or something like that. I caught him on the arm bar.
You know what though? Like if you look at his record, to me, you're obviously self-managed. He's definitely not afraid of a fight. And 3, he's making really good money as a B-side because he's taking fights to save cards. Sure. Yeah, to save cards. I mean, they meet a need.
Bobby Hoffman, Andre Roberts, Ted Williams, Tim Lasik, Dave Beneteau, and Kerry Shaw all in a row. He's clearly not being managed right.
No.
Wow. That's some tough guys. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, no. There was.
Wow.
Yeah. I respect him.
Yeah.
How many shows do you think that guy saved?
Yeah.
Quite a few.
That's exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Quite a few. And he got paid. Probably more than the guy fought. Yep.
That's right.
All right. One of the greatest events, there's a couple events that we really key on that we really like to open up on. December 11th, 1999, you fought on one. It was Holiday Fight Party.
Yeah.
It's in Georgia. And you fought Bull Shaw.
Yeah, it was a crazy cool night. Yeah.
Let's talk about the surface that you were on. Do you remember that?
Oh, I do. Yeah. Because they tried to stop my fight that night. So we go down there, and it's an underground, what I was told is a bomb shelter. It had all these, every 20 feet, pillars. And they just put a stage up, and they wrap chain link around 4 pillars. So 20 by 20 by 20, I think it was, by pillars.
Dude, it's like a chicken coop. It's a chicken coop.
And you could literally put your arm through the sides and that sort of thing. Absolutely. I remember a lot about it.
So do you remember who the promoters were?
Well, I do. One was the California State Athletic Commission. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely, I do. Yeah.
Okay. So Andy Foster and was it Brad Moses? Brett Moses. Those are the 2 guys that were promoting. So I see Andy occasionally. I work for Bare Knuckle, and I see Andy, and I'm like, man, I saw you on a video. And he's like, okay. And I explained to him, Holiday Fight Party. And he goes, I was one of the promoters. And I'm like, oh my God. Essentially, their idea was get the stage, like the boxing or whatever it is. I think it's like a boxing ring, the shell of a boxing ring. Yeah. And then later weld a cage together while the boxing ring is down. Yeah. But the welder, which, I mean, not a bright idea to begin with. It's like the welder said he couldn't make it. So they ran to Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever it was, and they just built like a chicken wire fence.
Yeah.
And they have 2 referees.
Yeah.
One to keep the fighters off of the cage walls, and one to actually kind of figure out what's going on. Tony Mullinex was one of the secondary referees there. Yeah.
They actually came into the locker room right before my fight and said, we'll pay you. Don't fight. We'll pay you. Don't fight. And I was you got to understand, Robert Bullshaw didn't come up to weigh-ins. He was part of the Brazilian crew that was there. So huge dude. He didn't show up to weigh-ins, and there was all this talk. And I was ready to fight. I was like, no, we're fighting. And he's like, well, we're afraid you guys are so big. You're going to tear the cage apart. And here's what was funny. When I was getting off the plane, I was like, hey, Brett, how long's the fight? He says, it's 5 fives. I said, 5 fives? And I almost was like insulted. Like, he thinks he can last that long with me? And it was my first time. I went 25 minutes, man. It went the whole time.
Wow. Yeah. Joey, read the main event on that. So So in essence, what you have is Ted Williams is a wrestler, and you got a behemoth guy with cage walls that, like, if at some point, I think you, in between rounds, you put your arm on top of the cage and it just completely folds it like an accordion. Like that's
it was a really cheesy cage.
Main event was Brandon Lee Hinkle versus Travis Fulton.
Okay. Yeah. So if you follow this podcast and you care about us, you will go and find that fight. What happens is Fulton's foot, while he's sprawling, like Hinkle's not standing with anybody. While he's sprawling, Fulton's foot goes underneath the cage, and the the cage is like forked on the bottom and it digs into his foot and he's stuck and Hinkle knocks him out.
Oh,
Crazy.
it's listed as a TKO injury. I must have revised it.
Yeah.
Like he's just like, man, I'm stuck. Hinkle's like, oh, game on. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of our favorites. So you can also see people on the outside following, just pushing up against the cage wall, just in case, like people, dude, it's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers.
If you got the film, I got, my film, my guy, he's one of those guys that they're, and I remember, I didn't think this guy was going to last very long with me. Well, if you remember, he's really bloody in this
He's
match.
really, I can't believe they didn't stop it. I'm surprised.
And
especially then.
Guys, I'm telling you, I was doing a side mount. It spooked me. I'm just hitting with the shovels, hitting him with the elbows, hitting him with and I turned and I looked at his head and his eyes, all I see is puddles of blood, not eyes. And when I popped it, boom, I seen his eyes come out. And I was like, kept telling ref, you got to stop this. You got to stop this. And if you watch the fight, I was talking the last few minutes to the people on the outside. It was a crazy night, crazy event that night.
He's a big ticket seller, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it was a big part of the.
Yeah. They went outside.
Jiu-jitsu, I think it was. Yeah.
He was a Jacare guy?
Yeah. He was their heavyweight. Yeah. Or Megaton. Was it Megaton?
I thought Megaton was in Arizona. Okay.
Yeah. He's got a win over John Dixon in his other fight.
So Robert Shaw is like a Ricardo Moraes type throwback guy. He looks like a caveman, like a giant human being.
He really is. Big dude. Yeah.
And there's blood everywhere. And when it's a hometown guy versus a B-side because they ain't stopping it.
Right. No matter what.
At one point in the overtime, his ear comes out the cage.
Oh,
because the cage is so thin and it's like kind of like working it. I honestly thought his ear was going to come off. I'm like, I was yelling at the TV. Yeah.
That's good stuff, man.
Yeah. Mark Coleman was there. Obaki was there. Yeah. Dude, that's wild. Yeah. That's a wild one. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. You also were the coach of Phillip Miller.
Yeah. I got not the wrestling coach, but the MMA coach. Yeah.
The MMA coach of Phillip Miller. So he retired at 16-0.
Yeah.
But he had like an unceremonious split from the UFC.
Yeah.
Could you tell? Nobody knows. No one's.
Yeah. This is one of those things that probably Dana's going to get mad at me. I don't know Dana at this point. I got the what was the other matchmaker? Remember, it started with a J.
You talk about it was Joe Silva. It was John Perretti.
So Joe Silva, we cut a deal with Phillip Miller, and as a fight promoter, I knew how to protect him. So I cut a deal with Joe, and it was in his contract that it was like, I think it was like 4-4, 5-5, 6-6. It wasn't a lot of money, but it said they could fight him against anybody they wanted because he was getting to that point where they were gonna. We get 50% of what you're paying them. So I put that clause in there to help basically keep the big dogs off of him, hopefully to give him some good fights, right? So if they were going to put any big name fighter at the time against him, they would have to pay him $50,000 because they're paying that guy so much more, right? Well, that's exactly what ended up happening. They ended up trying to put, what was the gentleman's name? It was the
Baroni.
Yeah. Phil Baroni. And I think we were only getting 5-5 or something like that at the time, whatever it was. He's getting paid like 75 and whatever it was. So it's like, sure, we'll take it. But that was with Joe. And then I got a call from Dana. First time I ever talked to him, probably last time I ever talked to him. He basically, gave me every curse word he had. And if you know who I am and you'll never this, that, and the other. And it was kind of the end of my relationship with the UFC. And Phillips too.
Yeah, it was all you wanted to do was activate your contractual right to get 50% of what you're paying. That's it. Kind of like ethical.
And I thought we would for sure win the match. I just wanted to make sure we got paid for it. And anyway, it went to one of those things that I so many times I wish me and Dana had an opportunity to talk. But the problem is I was Terry's right-hand guy, and Terry was like pricking at the UFC every time he could get a chance, any way he could get a chance. And I'm sure everybody on that side of the world looked at me as part of Terry type thing, which we were. So unfortunately, it really affected my relationship, I think, with Dana.
Yeah, that's you know what? In this sport, the one thing I think that I, and Joey all realize is that there's really nothing personal here. Like you can be yelling at one guy, yelling at a guy today, and 3 days from now, you're seething. And then 3 days from now, he's like, "Hey, dude, I got this business opportunity.
Right.
Kind of fits you perfect."
Right.
He's got to kind of put that stuff aside.
Yeah, that's really explains this sport back in the pioneer days. As opportunities started coming, you started calling the people you didn't quite like. They would be hoarse and put on a good show.
Yeah. Joey, July 13th, 2002, UFC 38 is in the United Kingdom. Phillip Miller fights James Zekic. Let's start there before we go with the obvious question after. So James Zekic, absolute gangster, somebody that had a heavy hand and a heavy reputation, like a street reputation.
Right.
Why don't you tell us your experience with James?
Well, I just remember training for that fight, thinking, if Phillip had a weak spot, which he did, it would be on the up fighting. And with the up fighting, one of his strengths were he could take 5 to get through it, but he could get knocked out. Right. This is that type of a fight, and it really started looking that way for a part of that fight. But the good thing about Phillip, and one of his strengths, was this heart or this will that just would never stop. So as long as you didn't completely choke him out, or as long as you didn't completely knock him out, you're in for a fight.
Yeah, he had a gas tank too.
Phillip
Miller had a big time chin, big time gas tank.
And
somebody gave me his personal cell phone number a few years ago. I haven't texted him in like over a year. That's an interview I've chased quite a bit. But I know he's on a police department, so is what it is. Yeah. Did you go to any after parties that night?
I missed the big one. I wasn't at the one where the big knockout happened, and I think it was Tito that got knocked out that night, and there were some fights. There was a big fight. I didn't go to that, unfortunately. Those are the kind of nights I wish I was, but I wasn't there.
Did you meet Lee Murray at all?
I think, not like handshaking, I remember that fight specifically because Ian Freeman, who had beat me, was fighting Frank Mir. Yeah, Frank Mir. I think it was on that card. And I remember Frank Mir coming to me trying to, hey, who's this Ian? What is he coming? And I got introduced to a lot of fighters, but I don't really have a relationship. I just know that night I heard what happened anyway. And that I believe it was.
What did you hear?
Oh, we woke up in the morning. Did you hear? You had a lot of that, gyrating going on. And I just heard that Tito's got into, a mouthing match with somebody, and then somebody cold knocked him out. And I don't know for sure. I don't think it was, I think it was the way that the non-Tito folks were saying it. It was, he knew it was coming. The way the other people say it was a dirty shot. So it depends on who we were listening to back then.
Yeah, the one thing for sure is that Tito says dress shoes. I mean, like he checked a bunch of boxes, for hey man, no, would have happened differently. But he also said that Tony Frickland jumped on his back or something. It was a guy named Bo that jumped on his back, but it was like Tony. For some reason, Tony Frickland became
he got in trouble for it.
He got in trouble. It actually terminated his UFC contract.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we talked to Tony about that.
Yeah, I think God kept me away from there for a reason, I guess. I don't know, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. So Gene LeBell also wrote a letter trying to get you into the 2000 ADCC tournament.
Yeah, I don't know where you got that letter, but boy, when I got that letter, I felt like I was special. Put it that way.
That's why he's the MMA detective.
Yeah.
He digs stuff like that up.
Yeah, wait, was there any, like, because you didn't go to ADCC and
I
compete?
didn't.
So
Well,
was there any conversations in regards to it?
yeah, I forget who the person was, but
Guy
it
Nevins.
was, who was it?
It would have been Guy Nevins or Marco Leaston. Those would have been your two
Okay, I
contacts.
think it was
Yeah.
Nevins. I think it was Guy Nevins. And I think it was, not as an MMA fighter, but because of my grappling background, if I could get, a letter from, and that was at the time the motivation that Gene was trying to write a letter. I think Gene I don't know how many black belts Gene had. I'm number 7, I believe, out of all of his black belts. He don't have a lot of them, but I was number 7. So from the grappling standpoint, he was trying to get me to go there and represent. And listen, all I know is the one I didn't go to, I think Jeff Munson won. And I got to grapple against Jeff Munson in a grappling match in Vegas, and it went 50-50. And I believe I won on a half point and whatever. But anyway, they called it 50-50. And that was against Jeff Munson, Grappler's Quest, after he had won out there.
Brian Simmons. Wow.
Yeah, Brian Simmons put that on. Well, just so you know, Brian Simmons said he was going to pay me to put on a super fight. So I brought my whole team. My team took second. If you go look at the results, Combat Grappling took second in tournament, which was pretty hard to do. But I was supposed to be in a super fight. It didn't happen. So there's a 4-man bracket. Munson was on the opposite side, and I got to meet him in the finals. And, I suppose in a way I wanted to try to beat him to show that I didn't go to the tournament that he won, but I could have beat him, that sort of thing.
That's pretty cool. That's actually really cool. Yeah. All right. You're number 7. Did you ever get on a mat with Rowdy Roddy Piper?
No. I mean, through, when the Tachi Palace fights for a while there, they were Gladiator Challenge shows with a name called Tachi Palace Fights. We had a contract with Roddy, and his son was fighting for us there, had fought in the show there. So I briefly knew him from there, heard stories or so, but no, I didn't have any kind of relationship with Roddy.
Okay, so Roddy was also a Gene LeBell black belt. Was that just an honorary black belt, or was he a real?
I don't know. I've never trained with him. When I was training with Gene, I did see like a Lewis came in. I seen like a Couture come in, a Shamrock come in. I seen guys come in like that, but no, not that I know of,
Steve Judson, UFC 24. He's coming off he's coming off a loss to Brad Kohler.
Brad Kohler.
Yeah.
Another phenomenal promoter out of Minnesota.
Yeah.
March 24th, UFC 24. John Perretti's the matchmaker. So he takes you from the Bas Rutten Invitational and puts you into the UFC.
Yeah.
Good fight.
Yeah, I get to fight, a guy that, back in California, when you see the guy, he gets knocked out. The thought was, hey, boss, just teach me how to use my hands. And that was the whole idea. So I had helped Boss a couple times. So now Boss was helping me for my fight. That was his first or second fight he helped me with as far as the UFC.
It's the most stand-up, like, to this point that you've displayed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good fight, dude. Yeah. Really,
it was
good
a neat combination, by the way. I don't know. A lot of people thought it was a hook. It wasn't a hook. It was an elbow.
And he trapped. Did he trap his arm too?
Yeah, he shot on the leg, and so I overwrapped the leg or the arm, and it came and caught his forearm
with an elbow.
And as he stood up, I just crossed it with an elbow.
Yeah, it was nice.
It was awesome. Yeah, it was a good hit.
Yeah.
It wasn't the plan of the day, but you ended up being the main event that night.
That's right.
So you won a UFC main event. That's a big deal.
Yeah. And I don't know. Did anybody tell you what happened that night?
Oh, I was watching it on pay-per-view. Yeah.
So you remember? Well,
just start from the beginning. Just at the table. Yeah. Go ahead.
So the only thing I could tell you. So I was there. So I mean, I don't know what they were saying on TV, but I was in the back of the curtain in my locker room, about vision of Kevin Randleman. And Kenneth Brown had this unique ability to jump up like 5 feet.
Yeah.
Jump up 5 feet. And he was doing that and kind of intimidating. And I think it's Pedro, somebody he was supposed to fight. But then he was yelling and screaming. Well, when he came down, he hit some pipe and drape. And it flipped him like Charlie Brown, knocked him out cold. I mean, cold out, like out. And that was it. They come in and saying, hey, you're the main event now. And everything changed. Yeah. That was crazy. Yeah.
So when we did like a Kevin Randleman tribute, and with Mark Coleman, we went through his career, and we're like, so Mark, who breaks the news to who us and Hizzo that Kevin isn't fighting? He said, well, I walked over there. They were like lined up, ready to go. I walk in, and he's like, I'm telling him, no, man, Kev got hurt, this, that, the other thing. He's like, I think they thought we were like joking with them or trying to, play a gag or just head games. He's like, dude, it got hairy quick. He's like, it wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Into Randleman's credit, he wanted to fight still.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He wanted to fight. And yeah, that whole thing, if you know that side of the camp, Pedro, Alfredo or Alfonso, I don't know the guy's name, the guy who's training him, who's cornering him in all of his fights. Every time you see him there,
Marco
kind of a shorter Brazilian guy. Anyway, he and I wrestled back in 1985 in Brazil. I wrestled him in Brazil, and we went. I think he beat me 0-1. Okay, he beats me 0-1. Right? We don't know each other for years. I'm Bas Rutten's corner, and he's Pedro's corner, and we fight on one of the cards. We don't fight each other. We fight on the cards. So that night we all are on Bourbon Street. Remember in 15 years ago or 10 years ago when we trained, I was in Brazil training with him. He was a wrestler, a big time wrestler back there for, if you're a wrestler, at least in that Brazil, you're like a government employee. That's what he did. He was a wrestler. So I got to know him. And so as the game he ends up becoming the grappling instructor for all these strikers coming out of Brazil. It was a really cool thing to be part of later.
You're the California State Judo champ, Sambo champion, All-American wrestler, and the U.S. Valet Tudo champion. I always liked it when like they would decorate, like just read the resume of the guy coming in. I to be honest with you, I wish the UFC would go back to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of those were lies, and you guys know it now. You start talking to these guys, and it says undefeated pit fighter. There was no such thing as pit fighting or whatever.
If there were, it was a very, very small circuit that probably didn't extend outside of somebody's basement.
Yeah. Well, when you talk to Art, he got very creative on how he pushed that narrative. So, but
this guy had all the credentials.
Right.
This guy had all the credentials, except he could not pass a drug test. He's not passing a USADA test.
Right.
It was the Wild West.
No. Joey. That was his. That's Ted Williams' background. That's his pedigree. But Judson, he's actually a really dangerous opponent because it's like he gets knocked out by Kohler. It's a fluke. It's kind of like really quick, ugly knockout. Either you quit and walk away from the sport or it haunts you. And then like you get the best person. That's the best Steve Judson you're going to get.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you guys heard or anybody told you, but Thomas Denny was in my camp, one of my students, and didn't say a word, so help me God, until about the week before the fight. And he came up to me and said, Ted, I got to tell you the truth. Steve is like a best friend to me. However, Thomas had been training in my camp the whole training camp before. So it was kind of like, as we get there, some not coolness going on, if you know what I mean. So basically Steve had a rat in my camp that whole time, everything that we trained to do to him. And everything was going to be, because he got knocked out last time, me and Boss were doing some numbers. 1, 2, 3. Each one was a combination that we were going to fire off on this guy because he was gun shy, got knocked out last time. Well, all that, to some degree anyway, got translated, I believe, to a friend through a friend, which was a bummer back then. But it was a small world back then. But it was a cruddy time when you have a student of yours come up to you and say, "Hey, by the way, I'm a really good friend of the guy you're fighting."
Rather than hear from somebody else, I'd rather tell you myself.
Or don't go in my camp for 6 weeks before.
Yeah. Denny was a real big ticket seller too.
Sure was. Yeah. Big time.
They said he used to make like 15, 20 grand. It's just selling tickets. Is that true?
Good. Yeah, you might be able. I don't know. I would say you make that in the fight, probably a combination between that and sponsors. Because like, if you sold 200 tickets, and he probably could sell 200 tickets, that was probably 15 grand. But if you're going to make more than that, that's probably sponsors and some other stuff. Yeah.
And then you were offered to fight Andre Roberts.
Yeah.
As your second UFC fight, but I think you were injured.
I was injured at the time. They called, and it's pretty funny because, in fact, tonight I was just curious. I just seen a picture of Andre Roberts with his knee up on I just seen it tonight. He's sitting in the chair with his leg up. I'm telling you, since that time that John Perretti tried to put me against him, or whoever it was put me against him, I see that guy like through social media like all the time for 20 years now.
Joey, we should really try to lock down the Roberts family between Tyrone and Andre. Yeah, both of those guys. Meskwaki Indian tribe.
Yeah. Hey, I know that guy's a really tough guy though. So.
Oh yeah, huge dude. It didn't have a real good showing against Gary Goodrich. Kind of throw it in there last minute, took a payday, but he certainly kind of showed you what he was made of shortly after that.
Against Ron Waterman, he definitely
Oh wow,
he showed what he was made of in that one. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, another giant human being. Cal Worsham. So the first time I saw you on TV would have been UFC 6, July 14th, 1996. I believe you were cornering Cal Worsham at the time.
Okay. Cal and I have a long relationship from when he was in the UFC. I really wasn't part of his camps. I didn't have that relationship with him back then. I wasn't there. However, if you go back from, he got into some other fights, and he ended up fighting for me a whole bunch, but he started right after, I want to say, I don't know, there's a big story about he almost died in the UFC. I'm sure you heard that story. Yeah. So that time when he almost died, that's about the time I became friends with Cal, just to start with. He had a gym up in NorCal and was part of some Taekwondo and some other guys. And eventually we ran some fights, a whole long series of fights there. And he was a big part of it. But we kind of met about then.
Okay, but you were in Wyoming, though. Am I correct?
No, I was not.
You were not in Wyoming.
No.
Oh, fuck.
No.
Missed Joey. Damn. I was hoping you were at
win them all.
Yeah,
I wasn't there, man. Sorry.
So you were he fought for you 13 times in Gladiator Challenge. And did you go to, so you were not at UFC 9 either then, to dance in Detroit when he fought
no, not at all.
Okay, when he fought Zane Frazier. Okay.
Well, that's the one where he almost died, was the Zane Frazier fight.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, after that, and by the time he gets home, I start to get to know him, but even from a distance for a minute there. But yeah, he and I have, obviously he's passed away not too long ago, but he became a very good friend of mine. Yeah. Almost a father figure. Not that much older than me, but just made wise decisions. I didn't, and he helped me a lot.
He passed away way too early. He'd be like mid-50s right now.
Do you know what he went and operated for? What happened?
No.
Go ahead.
He went in for a shoulder operation, bro. Not heart or lungs or mind. He went in for a shoulder operation. Unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable.
So what was it just a negative side effect to the...
Yeah, I want to say probably, the anesthesia didn't get through it. It's one of those things that I mean, he worked for me. We're good friends. We hunted. We had conversations like I'm the kind of guy who's never get my knees and my shoulders ever replaced. He's the kind of guy who's like, yeah, no problem. One at a time, he'd get it done. But man, should not have passed away. Just a really, really good man.
I think he'd be like 54, 55 right now. He was just, I mean, he's been gone
Yeah,
a
he'd be a
while.
little. I'm 55 or 56 now, so he'd probably be a little older. I'm
A little older?
guessing a
Okay.
few older,
Okay.
but maybe I don't know.
How was it like? What was it like dealing with Dan Severn? He fought for you several times.
It just he's a pro. There was some guy, he made it easy. Put it that way. He just made it easy. Would fight anybody. I always wondered. He never. A lot of guys, you match them, they say yes, and then you get calls or people, who's he fighting, and Dan never did that in any way, shape, or form. He just showed up and beat him.
Yeah, he kind of gave you a multi-tiered pricing system, though.
Say again.
He gave you like a tiered pricing system depending on what you wanted.
Yeah, depending on who you're fighting, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's got an interesting record. Dave Taylor and Bettis Mansouri are a couple of your students.
Yeah, Batiste, Missouri.
Batiste, yeah.
Yeah. And who did you say the first one was who?
Dave Taylor.
Yeah, Dave Taylor.
I mean, not a prolific guy, but certainly somebody that had a few fights.
Yeah, and so you go back then, everybody was trying to train with everybody. I was trying to get what the Brazilians had, and they were trying to get what the wrestlers had, and that sort of thing. So we did a lot of cross training.
On July 27th, 2007, it was announced that King of the Cage was purchased by Elite XC. Did you find out that day, or was there?
No, I didn't even know about that date. Terry and I had been weirdly struggling. Basically, I ran all the shows. He contracted the shows. I ran all the shows. He contracted the shows. One show, and any show we ran that was on television, I had nothing to do with the filming. That was a crew that we'd bring out and they'd film. So anyway, he got all over me about a show that was, the lens cap was left on and the footage is worthless and it cost us so much money. And it just was one after another issues that was trying to break us up. I thought, I don't know, God is my witness. I think, he took me to a restaurant and we broke up in that restaurant after I don't know how many years, of crushing this business, and it was the weirdest thing, Mike, as we shook hands and finished our business, he got up and walked over and met with another group that was then, I think, part of the cells. I think he had to get rid of me before he could complete some other things. I don't know. And at the end of the day, and I could tell you this, honestly, at that point in my life, I had drifted too far from being dad, being a husband, being a Christian. And I'd been attached to the wrong path, the wrong people. Had I got rewarded with millions of dollars, I might have, tapped my ticket and Christ would have took me home because I'd been no good to him. I just think, put it this way, as a Christian man, we had so many successes. I mean, we were making money. We were, on television, we're doing all these great things. And anybody that was competing with us, in my mind, were far behind. And the only thing in front of us was the UFC. And here we go. And, I didn't understand it could stop. And I didn't understand about power and money and all that kind of stuff. And how people might cut you out of deals and stuff. And so anyway, I think through the providence of God, I was able to withstand and weather that relationship, retool Gladiator Challenge. And hey, I raised 5 kids. I've raised 5 kids and had a great life in the MMA world, discovering tomorrow's talent and not having to, be under anybody's thumb. And I enjoyed life doing that way.
So essentially what you're saying is when you watch the airing of the show and you saw the King of the Cage logo on there and it's announced that they purchased it, that's when you found out.
Crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I think I might have mentioned to you, Mike, it was about 2 years after, maybe a year after. Terry's doing extremely well. He's made some sales. Everything's going great. And this group calls me up and says, hey, we'd like to buy your company, kind of like King of the Cage and some of these other businesses. Would you be interested? Of course. So we met for, I don't know, almost a year. We met for like 7-8 months. I drive down to Dave and Buster's. They drive down from Los Angeles. And I'm telling you guys, it was like 5 months into this relationship of them wanting to buy my company and all this stuff. In the middle of a conversation, the guy goes, you're nothing like Terry said you were.
Oh.
And I said, dude, is there cameras? I got goosebumps. At that time, I could have wanted to kill that guy in my life. So what's going on? And Terry had burnt this group. This group was bringing King of the Cage public before Pro Elite. Pro Elite was juicier. Terry jumps from this group, goes with Pro Elite, leave these guys high and dry. They have a shell company. They were trying to get ready for Terry. They end up coming to me, a year or 7 months down the line, whatever it was. But I ran into so many situations where, oh, really? You're nothing like that. I don't know. I guess people, you can name names, they had to create demons out of me to justify some of the things they did to us. Because all I was the gas behind anything and everything that was going on in King of the Cage and Gladiator Challenge. I had the peoples and the knowledge and the abilities. I was running trucks and cage crews and helping match make everything. And at that time, anything but the contracts and production or the films and stuff, I was doing all that. It was an absolute 50-50 partnership. And, but anyway, changed, life changed. And I grew up and learned a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
It's just the world we live in, man. And it's like, I can't speak for your situation, but I can others. So King of the Cage, when they really started expanding across the country, I don't want to be mean, but there's a guy in the Midwest, Mike Camp is his name. I just go look at his social media. Like, if you don't think that he's remedial or there's something wrong with him or he's off, and this was like the person that like was captaining the King of the Cage matchmaking through the Midwest. All he did was just recycled. He liked to use a lot of the same weights and just recycled the same card over and over again because he didn't have an ability to like communicate with lots of gyms because it's just he's fundamentally deficient in that.
Yeah, I can tell you stories. When that Mike guy came I was standing at Saboba with just contract with Terry, this contract that, look, we're doing, I think at the time it was 36 live shows a year between King of the Cage and Gladiator Challenge. That's like 3 shows, 4 shows a month. It was crazy.
Nuts.
And I got to the point like, look, as we start to produce, I want to be part of everything we do. King of the Cage, and it was a deal, no problem. And all of a sudden, these Ted Williamses or what I was doing for the shows started popping up in these different places. One in Canada, one back east, and Terry started writing these, licensing agreements.
Yeah,
and I wasn't getting any of this cash. You know what I mean? So it was something that started. I wasn't smart enough in business in a bigger picture to understand and have my finger on the pulse back then to know, and I just trusted too much. And boy, I got caught in a web of craziness. That's for sure.
He who controls the bank statements controls the company.
Yeah. My boy just reminded me, check this out. I want to know something funny. So Terry and I created the company back then. Right. And, this is like, it was way back. We're sitting at a restaurant and we're like brainstorming, like what we're going to do, where we're going to do it. And so we got to create a name. So we create Ted and Terry's Dynamite Productions, T&T Dynamite, T&T, Ted and Terry. Well, I had no frigging idea that Terry's name was Cherry Nick Trebilcock. So T&T was his freaking initials. I'm telling you. And I just played right into this guy's hand from the very beginning. Unfortunately, I was just that kind of guy that didn't know any better.
What was it, like Brentwood Entertainment? I think he switched it to eventually as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it was like I said, but that Mike guy, like, yeah. I've been kind. That's
Yeah,
all I can
man.
tell you. I've been like, you're talking like a 52 IQ person. That like,
Right.
you know what I mean? There's like,
Right.
you can do like a magic trick with like the little red foam nose ball, the
And get away
crown, and
with
just
it.
over and over and over and over again. He'll sit there for an
That's good
hour
stuff.
trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Right. That's good, man.
I mean, it's the truth. Bill Parker, you fought him June 24th, 2000. You beat him with a key lock.
Yeah, that was a King of the Cage, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's a thing. It was supposed to be an easy fight. And I was supposed to go out there and toy with this guy, and it just shows you that I couldn't. I couldn't. I was afraid that I might get beat. So I just went out there and took him down and submitted him. It wasn't too tough of a fight or anything like that. I could have played, but I just wasn't developed enough in my game to understand, if you would, like that would have been a good part of my game to stretch it out and go into three periods and I was too afraid I might have lost, so I went out there and just mowed the guy down. But I should have taken that opportunity to get into the third round, to stretch my lungs out, to work my up game, but I didn't.
This was a huge card. This is Marvin Eastman versus Quentin Jackson and Dwayne Ludwig versus Shad Smith. This is a great show.
Card, huh? Yeah, great card, man.
Yeah, Ludwig, legendary pose. I mean, still, it's kind of like the Michael Jordan jump man.
That's where he did the karate pose. Yeah.
Man, Shad Smith.
Yeah, great. I met him when Bas Rutten was training for his first fight versus TK. We went out to train out in Colorado, and basically this little skinny white guy was going round for round with Bas up, and then I'd go round for round with Bas down. So ding, he'd come in and Dwayne Bang was just doing it. And then I'd go in and take down and do so that's what a big part of our training repertoire was. And that's where I met Dwayne for the first time. Good guy.
Did you ever have any dealings with Bob Shamrock?
Not very much. A couple of phone calls and crazy story, basically nothing like anyway. So he was, so he had the boys home guys.
Yeah, the
right?
boys rich. Yeah.
So you have one of those guys, not the Shamrocks, not the two. One of those guys, I forget the guy. He runs a gym in Northern California. He got caught for
Crazy Bob
peeking through. He basically set up cameras and they were peeking through the tanning beds or something. That's when I got to know Bob, because that guy ended up going to jail for something. He was part of the Lion's Den back then, not the Shamrocks part back when. And so, unfortunately, it was a guy going to jail, and I barely met the guy in conversation. But I can only, I've read stories. I've read little parts of stuff, what he did, and could only admire, in a sense, what he was trying to do with kids at that age. And
in my opinion, I mean, he adopts two children, both become world champions. Oh, right. Ken not. Ken right. Close, but Frank, yeah. Tony Galindo fought for you quite a few times as well.
Yeah.
He's another madman.
Yeah, you find a lot of personalities that have an agenda. They want to open a school. They want to get to the UFC. And so back then, we just give them a paintbrush and say, okay, paint me the picture, what you're trying to accomplish. And that was our job to try to get them there. And everybody had different, I want to get to the UFC and fight. Some guys, they just wanted to, look tough, for their grandkids, and everybody else in between. So Tony is one of those guys that was a monster. He was out there doing some really cool things back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah. Ken had a fight with Mark Hall at one of your events where Tony and Vernon White kind of held the security back. Well,
I heard it was something about basically they had a beef, but then I think it was Ken called Mark Hall's wife, not called her, but left a message or called her and was talking smack about.
I think it was the opposite. I think
it was the opposite.
Yeah, Mark doing it with Cal.
Okay, it was Mark Hall who did it. Okay,
yeah,
and then it blew up. Yeah.
How about some of the other like regional events? Did you ever go to like Kaja or Neutral Ground or Kaja's Cage Combat? Or Neutral Grounds?
Yeah. I went to a few Neutral Grounds. I went to a couple IFCs. I went to a couple. I don't even know what their name, but there's one in Long Beach. There's a couple I went to. Yeah, way back in the day.
Did you go to the Cobra Fighting Federation shows?
I don't think so.
It's Mark Hall's show.
Yeah. After, no, not during the beginning and those shows, but that casino, Kauai Casino, where he was running shows. I ended up running shows, Gladiator Challenger, years later. So in between, but no, not back in the day. I did go to one of his fights. I actually went at the Kauai show. Tap Out was there. It was Jason Von Flew. Von Flew was the main event at the show. I was standing in the back, and I think it was a no gloves type of show. I think that was his thing, right? Was it no gloves? I think.
Yeah,
I'm not anybody sure. It was anybody from the audience. It was anybody from the audience type thing.
He had a big fat lady fight a drunk guy once, so there's no rules.
Right? Yeah.
Did you ever go to the Hitman Fight Promotions events?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've been to a few of them. Yeah, are you talking about with Paul?
With Paul Herrera.
Yeah. Paul Herrera, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, Paul Herrera and I have a kind of a cool, a lot of guys in this industry, we all bumped heads in the beginning and like didn't like each other because we fought each other. You know what I mean? I don't know if you know, but, did anybody tell you the story about Tito and I at King of the Cage and somebody got thrown out of the cage? It wasn't me. I was standing in the cage and somebody got thrown out. But anyway, I got an actual lawsuit.
Here, let's walk it from the beginning. So, would you mind naming names on this?
It was.
Go ahead.
Tito Ortiz had that big heavyweight. I forget the big heavyweight. It was like
Rico Rodriguez.
No. The what was his name? Anyway, it was Tito and Paul Herrera had this heavyweight in our show. And heavyweight didn't like what had happened. And you guys know, if you don't corral and stop somebody inside the cage, they could evoke a riot. They could evoke a riot or something. So here is his guy who didn't win, didn't like the decision. So he's up in there. He's doing this in the cage at Saboba. And it's getting loud. It's getting crazy. I walk in there and I told it was Tito and him. I'm trying to think of the heavyweight's name. He's a big guy.
It wasn't James Irvin. I think James started with Tito.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was the Croatian. He was Croatian, a big, thick guy. But anyway, I told him, I said, stop it now.
Dick Delaware.
What's his name?
Dick Delaware.
No.
Dick Delaware.
Yeah. That was a good move. No. But anyway, we were at the front of the gate, and I was trying to get these guys to stop evoking what they're doing, and I'd shoved Tito out of the cage, and he comes tumbling down, and I don't know exactly. It was. Here's how it happened. I get my attorney, which was Terry's and my attorney, same guy. Our attorney calls me up and says, "Hey, listen, you know the guy Tito you threw out? How'd it go?" Anyway, Paul Herrera wants to fight. This is before me and Paul really knew each other. Paul Herrera is going to fight me in the King of the Cage to fix this, basically
to avenge
to
disrespect towards
and
Tito.
And I guess Paul Herrera was a pretty good wrestler, but I was a pretty good wrestler too. And he found out, and somehow it got dissolved. We never fought, but that's how it started. I forget the guy's name. Anyway, he was evoking a riot. I go up there. I push both of them, but mainly I push Tito out of the cage. He goes stumbling. We get face to face, and then we get separated. And then that's like a week later, 2 weeks later, I get this lawsuit pending if I don't then fight Paul Herrera, which, I took the fight, and we end up all not fighting, I guess.
Being cool. You guys all figured it out. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't me. Yeah.
Joey.
I
message
can't figure who that heavyweight is. Oh, get a message from who?
Yeah.
from Tito about an attorney.
Oh yeah, Tito just threatened to sue us last week. It's
Yeah.
true.
Oh, gee whiz.
He didn't like something Tank Abbott said about him on a
gee
previous
whiz.
episode.
You know what, dude? We got more. Tank Abbott, there was nothing holy in his interview. Like there was, he went all in. Like he went all in. Like it didn't matter whose name we were throwing at him. he was going. I mean, he had his.
I bet.
He had his best material.
I bet.
You know, and he didn't want to leave. Like we're like 3 hours in. We're like, no, dude, we got like no, no, I'm out of these. Like no, we gotta go. And
look at that.
I think we're gonna put another one up at Tito. Yeah, maybe we can actually get that legal letter. I took it down hoping we could have a conversation. Just go respectfully. I'd like to talk about his career. You know, none of that other stuff. But I think we're gonna throw another one up. King of the Cage, Wet N Wild, February 24th, 2001.
Crazy show.
Yes,
I mean, you're backstage. You're trying to do damage control. You know,
I remember a couple of things. One, God is my witness. The water was running because the way the property is almost to my heel. So like an inch and a half up the water was just coming down. And it wasn't originally called Wet N Wild. It was a different name. The DVD came out as Wet N Wild because it was. But I remember that's when I met Keith Berry. I walked up to him and I wrongly was like, because fights were falling apart. And I went up to him like, you know, I was pretty aggressive, like, you got to fight. And he's pretty aggressive, like, I don't got to do nothing. But I wish I could do that again. But that's when I met him. That was a night that we did everything we can just to try to keep the fights on the card, cross bracketing guys. But you know what was really cool? Part of it was really cool was when you're done, you felt like, you know, the NFL has their guys that'll stand in the snow. Nobody left that night. Everybody who came stayed and watched in the rain. And it was like, we're as tough as the NFL guys, you know, it was awesome. We got good fans.
I was one of them. I was at that event. You had hired a bunch of Pride guys to fight on that card, right? So it's not like you could just push it to the next week. You had guys from Japan fighting that night.
Yeah, that was when I think we started dealing with Pride guys and started getting, you know, they fought I think 3 times for us, 2 times in Cage, 1 time in Gladiator Challenge. And so we're trying to share fighters and, you know, fight their guys, and they would supposedly take ours. So, but yeah, it was a good card. Fantastic card. Rico Rodriguez was on that card. Yeah. Was it Pete Williams? Yeah, Pete Williams on that card.
Yeah, he was. He knocked out Rick Mathis.
Just a great card. Yeah. Wet N Wild. That was a great night, man.
Yeah, another legendary. It's like what you're part of 2 of those, like 2 legendary events that we like to talk about. Yeah. You had I had heard, and like, if this is something we got to edit, this is something we got to edit. You know what I mean? I don't care. I had heard that this deal right here at King of the Cage, Wet N Wild, they brought in some guys from Japan, and that is kind of like when the first financial things internationally started coming in for King of the Cage. And the rumor mill was this was the beginning of the wedge between you and Terry, was this event.
I would, maybe I would, and it's not anybody's fault, because you remember the guy that was with, gosh, I want to say it was Brett, but anyway, the guy that filmed that show, that the film company,
Mandel, what's his name?
No, so basically, gosh, whatever the guy's name was.
I might have his phone number. Keep going.
So Terry cuts a deal with, I think it was, remember you guys said it earlier, Brentwood Communications, I think it was.
Yeah, Brentwood Communications, yes.
So not the DVD part of that, but filming part of it, he cuts a deal with these guys, and now they're starting to run the shows, right? They're starting to have their guys run the show. And when that gentleman showed up,
Dave Mandel.
No.
Okay.
No. What's the guy's name? I'd know it. He's a good guy. It's just he ended up working for Shark Fights later when Shark Fights came out. But anyway, I think he was the owner of that company. He came out and did a deal with Terry, and they end up, definitely was probably right about that time when I started seeing guys getting license agreements. I no longer was part of those fights, meaning I'm not getting paid for those fights. He is. And, all of a sudden, this new group comes in who's filming the shows. We had a group that was filming all of our shows. Now this new group comes in, and it kind of takes the directional part of the ownership of the show away from you. So it probably was about that time.
So you actually were also completely separated from the Fight Pass deal as well, the licensing agreement with them, with the King of the Cage library.
Yeah. I sold King of the Cage to Fight Pass later, but all of that,
you sold Gladiator Challenge to Fight Pass, not King of the Cage. Okay.
Yes.
What about like the Suncoast video DVDs and the sales? Like through Target, did you receive?
Never got a dime.
Oh my
right?
God.
Never got a dime. And you know how that worked? So here I am rolling my sleeve up, working the ground up at Calusa Casino and all these casinos, meeting all these guys like Urijah Faber for the first time when he was just from UC Davis wrestling. So I had to have something to pitch these guys. They're not just fighting, but hey, I got a magazine that's in all the stores, grappling magazine. And oh yeah, I've got these DVDs out here. Well, they end up taking a lot of my Gladiator Challenge and putting them in a 10-pack. It was like Girls Gone Wild and Gladiator Challenge, and which sold really, really well. But I never, and all I got from it was, Terry saying, hey, look, I've got some opportunities for you if you want to put your label in there to advertise and brand. You're not going to make any money off it type thing, but it was one of those kind of things.
And you can pay for that.
Oh yeah, boy,
you can also pay for the little index card that's going to go inside.
Yeah. If you ever dealt with Terry, you realize there's a bill at the end of it. That's for sure.
Oh my God! Yeah, those big giant like 10 packs of DVDs. Like I'm from Chicago, so whenever I'd be in Walmart or something like that, I'd see that giant 10-pack, and it was reasonably priced. I'd say it was actually affordably priced.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it, I go, man, there's 300 fights on here. I need this. Like there's there's absolutely no way I can leave here without 300 fights for $20.
Yep. It was awesome. And it was, we got some good sponsors, and we got some different things that, because the label was kind of getting out there, we got a little extra, butter on our bread because of it. But I never got paid from any of that kind of stuff.
Okay,
where I made money from was bringing more sponsors to the shows that would eventually make it on those DVDs,
Well, Joey, the one thing we know he probably got paid for was the pay-per-views that sold, like the packaging of future UFC stars.
And all of that stuff, just so you know, this is more inside stuff between Terry and I. Terry kept a ledger. All the King of the Cage shows always lost money because he invested in all this stuff. Everything you've seen supposedly lost money, and all the Gladiator Challenge always made money. So after about 6 years, he wanted to settle up the things. And look, you guys made money all the time. And, well, stop it. That's you.
You owed him. You owed him money.
Look at your house. Look at your, the boats and everything else you're driving. But it's just the way that I was immature. I had a lot to learn, and I did. I learned.
Okay, here. So, felony Charles Bennett.
Yeah.
He changes his. I've heard this, and I don't know if it's true. He changes his name from Crazy Horse to Felony.
Yeah.
Do you remember how that all took place?
I know Crazy Horse because of
you met him in Atlanta.
Discovered him.
Yeah,
he was that guy that I think Terry actually discovered him first. Something like I discovered Urijah.
He fought on the same card as you.
Yeah,
Terry didn't discover him. You found him.
Well, in a sense of brought him to the show.
Okay.
But me and Crazy Horse, Crazy Horse, I'm just telling you, Brendan. Well, you could see it now. Was one of the most talented guys ever. Yeah. He just never ever trained, and he did a lot of drugs and some other stuff. Or maybe didn't do them. Was running a lot of street drugs and all. every time we got him out of, I mean, I remember Terry sending people to fly with him to pick him up just to get him, make sure he'd show up because, you know, he was one of those kind of guys, but super talented, just never really trained.
Okay. So what about the nickname change?
No, I don't know much about it. I mean, I know.
I think it happened after you had
That was
parted
after.
ways.
Yeah. We have some great nights, me and him. He's a little dude and I'm a big guy, and we got some good fights in the backstage a couple times. And so, you know, we put our hands on each other a couple of fun times. And I can say I beat the snot out of him a few times, and he got me a couple times too, to be honest. But we had a great relationship. Yeah. I mean, I was being filmed one day, splurting out all kinds of bad things, beat the pee out of that guy. And I hope that never shows up. That film never shows up because I was saying a whole bunch of bad things to him.
Yeah,
and
but that's like an term of endearment for him. Like he likes that.
Yeah. And exactly. Yeah. We grew because of it. Me and Charles.
So, all right, you guys can't even get him to California without an escort. How does he get to Japan?
Yeah. And sometimes he didn't. You know, I think there was a lot of problems. I flew for communications. I went to Sydney, Australia. I went for business. I never went with Charles, like, to corral him. But that's basically what you did. You'd hire, I think, Chris Cordero, or there'd be a couple guys that would be basically responsible for picking that guy up and making sure. And, you know, if you didn't do that, it was less than 50-50 that he was going to show up.
Well, it's got to be tough to get a visa for a guy who calls himself Felony.
Right.
They wouldn't have to dig too far. Like, Australia's pretty picky.
Right.
But even Japan, like, here, this is Felony. Okay. So what Felony does is he puts like a hoodie on, and then he like tightens the strings. Yeah. So like you're looking at like this, like outside of a hood. And like sometimes you can kind of like sneak his blunt in there. So you don't even like know it's him, but he doesn't leave the front of the hotel. He goes to the hotel to the front, hotel to the front. He very rarely like ventures outside. And I think it's through experience of like kind of getting lost, you know, several times. But he was huge in Japan. Like he really did well there.
Yeah. I would, you know, I'd have to give it to Terry for a couple of things. There's a couple of people that he was able to have patience with, or whatever you want to call it, you know, spend enough time with, have patience with, to market the guy, because he was a tough guy to corral, that's for sure.
Okay, so the rumor I had heard, and like I'm 95% sure, I have not confirmed it with Crazy Horse because like he's kind of too hard to dial in. But essentially what he said was he had mentioned about his nickname and he wanted to change it. Terry goes, wait a minute. I've spent almost $1 million promoting that name. I've got almost $1 million into this name. And Crazy Horse, dude, he's a wild guy. He's a crazy guy, but he's not a dumb guy. Like he's not a dumb guy. Like it's oftentimes like his little misbehaviors are very calculated. And he just says, well, you've only been paying me like $500 to $700 a fight. Yeah. You got how much?
Right.
And that was it. No. Terry even threatened to sue him. That's what I had heard. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true.
No, it's somewhere about that time, or maybe a little later, I get a call. Now, listen, anytime the attorney called after Terry and I split, it cost me money. Like Terry would sue me for the stupidest things. 100%. I was right. He had FU money and he was spending it to screw with me. Well, anytime his attorney called me, it meant like I'm going to start writing checks. Well, he calls me one day and says, Ted, I'd like to talk to you about doing business with you. And the stories he would tell me and the things that Terry was doing with Mark Cuban and the whole, there was so much that was built into that. If Terry would have stayed the course, eventually Terry would got his King of the Cage, would have his own show. And well, the attorney behind all this was so upset that Terry basically fluffed all that off, wouldn't open up the books to Mark Cuban and the people that needed to see the books, because Terry's real good at hiding all the monies, going fishing, going around the world doing his things, and that's exactly when about that time his attorney. So remember I told you there was, if you look at Gladiator Challenge, there's like 30 people in the cage all hugging each other, and most of them it's Brad Verrett, his guy, it's his attorney, it's the Dan rod fishing guys, all of those guys in my cage doing he has some kind of a hand signal. I didn't know it, guys. Well, I was doing it too, like whatever it was. We took the picture. Oh my gosh, that was like Vietnam War. Terry, like 2 days later, started suing me and basically felt attacked from all of his, peoples and stuff. I didn't even know it. We first got back to Saboba after many years being away from it, and I was just happy. We ran some great shows there. All the people that used to be with Terry are now part of our shows, but Terry didn't like that, so it caused a lot of riff, a lot of problems.
What did the casino say? Like when you guys became two completely separate entities?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying either of you guys were playing a nasty hand of cards, but it's kind of par for the course that something like that would happen where somebody would have to leave.
Yeah, well, check this out. I get to Saboba Casino by myself, my own contract. Terry sues me. Now he's at Morongo. Morongo wouldn't let him run shows contractually at Saboba. They're too close. And if he was at Saboba, they wouldn't contractually. That's part of the Indian contract. Once you're in a geographical area, you don't compete with them. He still sued me. He still, cease and desist, sued me. I was about $20,000 in defending myself on something that I had a statement from the casino that says, I don't want him here. But you still had to fight the system and go through it. So, yeah, Terry's, once he got paid and got money, it was real hard to deal with. That's for sure.
Yeah. That's nightmarish.
Oh, it's horrible. Yeah. Especially, guys, I'm telling you, I honestly thought that back in the day when all this was going on, I thought I was writing not me, but I was writing the history books of MMA. We're creating these new venues and levels and stuff. And it was just going to, unfold to something amazing financially, something that I could like pass on to my family. And bro, when this all went sour and how it went sour, just sad, just super sad.
You realize, like, had everybody, Bellator shouldn't exist.
No,
it shouldn't exist.
Yeah,
it's kind of like you got to look at it like Amazon.com. The big heavyweights that got big checks out of Walmart shouldn't have allowed a company like Amazon.com to slip through the. It's like they shouldn't exist.
Yep.
It's like, no, and, you should have done that. You should be Amazon.com,
right.
not Amazon.
Man, so much when that all transitioned and Pro Elite was buying up things, and I sat in a couple meetings with Pro Elite with Terry. And
was it JD? Was it JD Penn or was it Jared Shaw?
Yeah, all those guys.
Gary Shaw.
Yeah, exactly. I sat in those meetings supposedly.
Rich Chow.
So Terry was getting paid really fat after he sold the company to help run the shows and stuff. Well, he was going to get paid to bring me in. His deal was like $10 million for it was like 8-point-something million. For Gladiator Challenge, it was going to be like 2-point-something million. And it was going to be, he got a big chunk of it and so I was kind of playing ball with him for a minute there, even though we were not together. But I knew Terry, he would, if he's going to get paid,
he gets you paid.
Put it together. Anyway, It never happened. But boy, oh boy, I learned. This is when I learned a lot of stuff in my life, business wise. I needed to learn it anyway. It just kind of was bittersweet to have something like that happen to you.
So Ted, we're doing a series right now about the rise and fall of Elite XC. We've got Jared Shaw, Gary Shaw's. He was a vice president of operations.
Yeah.
So we've done 3 episodes with him, and when we ask him, what did these guys get paid? And what did Cage Rage get paid? What did Rumble and the Rock get paid? And he was just like, dude, it was like a big Ponzi scheme. And it turns out we were working, like we were on CBS. We were doing major ratings. And it was like, it was an accidental success on a giant Ponzi scheme. Dude, they were on like the pink sheets, like the little bullshit penny stocks.
Yeah.
And they got that penny stock up to $15.
Wow. Yeah, they were buying all of it up, and supposedly even if they want to shut you down, they'd buy you, like the Rumble in the Rocks or like some of the smaller stuff you're talking about. And for a minute there, I was supposedly going to get bought up into it. It didn't happen. But
dude, TJ Thompson got bought up. One of the early guys that got bought up.
I believe he did. Yeah,
and like he was disgruntled with the deal, even though he made a lot of money.
Yeah,
like he was just like, well, why aren't I a part of this? Well, no, we bought you up. And
guys like that, they were around from the very beginning. So even though they didn't get bought out like that, they kind of feel like, guys, I've been here from the very beginning, And if you were in some of those border, I don't know if you guys were, if you know anybody. I remember sitting there. Terry got purchased already. She's trying to get my deal in there, and looking around this table. And each of these guys get paid like $150,000 a year. Terry was getting paid like $180,000. He got paid every fight plus. He got per diems. He got all this money aside from what they were paying him on for the show. And they end up defaulting, so he ends up getting his show back. If you go back to the whole thing, it was just insane. Did
you get along with Chris Cordero?
We got along really well. I thought he was the most talented guy I knew he's
Plugged
funny.
Dude. That guy was plugged. Yep.
He's just a funny guy. And it was really weird because anybody who got close, once Terry and I split up, anybody that was, so basically because he was with Terry, he had to be my enemy. I remember one time, it was in New Mexico. I was doing a contract. I called the radio station, and the guy was pitting me versus this guy for King of the Cage. It ended up being Cordero. And the guy says something, anyway, I had the number one GMC dealer. If you go back to that show, it's in New Mexico. I had the number one GMC dealer who's funding the whole show. And then you had Chris Cordero, who's just trying to run a show at the casino. And I had said to the guy, Chris Cordero cannot compete with me at all. And then Chris Cordero was in that room with that radio guy, started talking to me. And I felt like a jerk. I was not throwing him under the bus. I just know what he has in his pocket and what I had going on over here. It was not even close. And I was telling the radio stations side with us. Anyway, so I only had that my only bad.
That's not talking trash.
No.
That's just, hey, dude.
No. That's the only time I've ever had a problem with him. He felt like I was, throwing him on the bus.
But let's look underneath the hood of the car. Who's got the bigger engine?
And that guy, bro, I don't know. Somebody told me he's made a lot of money in something else, but he's a very talented guy.
Very smart guy. He's done really well managing too. Like his ability to get people fights. He did very well. He's done. Yeah. I respect Chris. I respect Chris. Dude. Yeah, I've never met him.
Totally
never talked to him.
Chris.
Yeah. I never talked to him. Never met him, but I definitely know his reputation. Yeah. No, for sure. Well, Joey, we're almost at 2 hours right now.
Okay, wait, now we flew by this on Wet N Wild, but do we have time to get his take on Rafiel Torre?
Oh,
did you have any experience with him?
I don't know a lot about Rafiel Torre.
Okay.
Just so you guys know, here's what I know. That I was told, and what I was hearing, and this is like not at the shows only, but at the after fight parties and all the other stuff. There's this guy Rafiel, and he's like an agent, and he works like the FBI, and he's got like all these connections. And that, honest to God, that's all we were hearing. And so, he was doing commentating, I think color commentating for us, as if, and I guess he did have some jiu-jitsu, training. Don't get me wrong, but he kind of, from my understanding, got into a lot of trouble. But all that stuff, I think it was you, Mike, that was telling me. I had no idea. I had no idea that it was the murder, right? Something about a murder. Yeah. I had no idea at the time.
Dude, he ended up having a lot of contact with law enforcement.
Yeah,
he's on the other side.
He did have contact with law enforcement, which is not the kind you want. Dude, look at this. Joey, look at this. Can you read that?
It's blurry.
Rafiel Torre just sent me a message from jail.
Really?
Oh, boy.
Yeah. 5 minutes ago. Yeah.
That's
Yes, he interesting guy. So you never really had interact because there. I won't say names. So there's a guy, Jerry Oliver's his name, great guy. He's pitching the Rafiel Torre story with some of our footage, some of his footage. Brilliant guy, absolutely brilliant guy. So you don't have anything to say about Torre in regards to you didn't.
I really don't know. I only heard rumors behind the scenes, but it was more again.
Terry?
He was on this side of the law, not that side of the law.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I heard I think you were the first time I heard the more extent of the story when you talked about it, but I don't know much about it. I know that he's in jail, like you said, he's in jail now for what he did, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who
was it that he murdered? It was a girlfriend or something, right?
Girlfriend's husband
or something. Girlfriend's husband, yeah.
Girlfriend's husband.
And well, here he got it got like escalated because it was like they benefited from an insurance policy.
Okay.
But like he took all of the hit and she was never charged. She benefited. She got the money. Like it was like it's.
Oh, wow.
She also paid for his attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She set him up.
Oh, my goodness.
Like a bowling pin, dude.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that's horrible, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you know who goes out of their way to say nice things about you behind your back?
Oh, who's that?
Gerald Strebendt.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
No, he's had some interactions with the laws. I really like Gerald a lot. Definitely a friend. Certainly somebody that crazy background, leans into controversial things, but the things that are most negative said about him are like obviously patently not true. Yeah, I like Gerald a lot.
Yeah, I think I don't know any dark side of him. I know the younger side of him trying to make a name for himself in the fighting world, and just was a yes or no sir guy. Good relationship I had with him anyway.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Yeah, I mean, this is just a small portion of what it is you've done in the sport of mixed martial arts, and prior to this, promoters that have done it longer than you. Technically speaking, I think the King of the Cage. Wow, yeah, you did the Empire One show together.
Yeah,
so you and Terry are same day
from the very beginning. Yeah,
there's only one guy that I know that's still in the game from like 96, 97. He's a local guy. Total Fight Challenge, Joe Goitia.
Oh, cool. Cool. Well, now I don't know if you know, but I've given my show to my son Teddy. I have 5 kids. My first son is Teddy Williams. He's just through the COVID time and stuff. We've kind of transitioned. We're actually now doing shows in our own hometown. We got a show March 14th up here, up in Victorville Fairgrounds for San Diego County. And so I'm working on the side with him, just getting him to, learn the business. He's been doing it quite a while now. And so slowly but surely, we should start seeing a lot of big shows coming.
Yeah, and if second generation promoter, super important. The knowledge that he has is so much more advanced than everybody else. But the missteps, the accidents, the issues that you went through, through osmosis and being around you, he's already learned those lessons.
Yeah. Yep.
Like it's actually a benefit to go through some kind of go through some weeds.
Yep, it's what makes you grow, and to be honest, in this sport, I'm telling you guys, I'm sure you've heard it. I when you at a weigh-ins, I met with a fighter. I give him 8 weeks ago 100 tickets. He's supposed to give me $4,000. I've had guys give me bags of coke, weed, anything but the money because they got caught. They sold tickets. They try to flip the money. They haven't got it all sold yet. They try to square up with us. Bro, I mean, we've chased guys down with guns. We've, in the very beginning, this was like the Wild Wild West. It really was.
Joey, why don't you read one of the footnotes we had in regards to the way he collected tickets?
Oh, you mean the thing about Antonio McKee and the gun?
He said he always had a gun on the table when he was squaring up with you.
That's right.
Yeah, always. Yeah, and here's what I normally did. I'd walk guys in my room. There'd be a shotgun on my side, a loaded shotgun, and I'd have my 45 right on the table. Just let them know, like, if it's happening, I'm going to try really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolute pioneer. Even I know you don't do these. I believe this is your first podcast.
First one ever. Yeah. So thank you guys.
He busted his cherry.
Ted, I've been to 60 of your shows. It's good to finally talk to you a little bit.
Well, God bless, man. Thank you very much, brother. I really appreciate that, Joey.
Yeah, you can tell Teddy, some of his clothes were bought from by Joey and Teddy.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Anything, the more we can do together, anything, if you guys want to come to any of our shows, anything like that, we'd love to help out and be part of it. So thank you.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Thank you guys.
Have a good day. His son set that up, did the Zoom, put the stuff in.
Yeah.
Sitting there the whole time helping out. Yeah.
You know what? He's a complete opposite of my impression of him, because I've only seen him when he's working. I've only seen him trying to do the balancing act of the MMA show. I've never seen him just kick back and be chill. So he's a hell of a lot more talkative and personable than I thought.
Guess what came in, dude? Guess what came in, dude? Guess what came in? Got my yellow cards. Hey, dude.
So do I pull one whenever you get something wrong on you? Is that what I do?
Yeah, I gotta send you a bunch. So I got carrot cakes. I still got a few more. I actually mailed 4 of them out to people that did reviews.
Nice.
And like I've got like 2,000 of these. So Phil Barker, the guy that did the timestamps for us, he's probably did like 60 different episode timestamps that were years sitting there without him. I got to get a package together for him. I gotta order more shirts. Like I gotta get a couple. I keep saying I got it. Here. I need to have a few more checks underneath me. And then I'm going to be sending out big packages to people. Phil Barker is 100% getting that first one in the mail. But once I get settled, we're moving some parts around. What we're going to do is anybody commenting on our Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, you're going to get a couple stickers and you're going to get some yellow cards.
Yeah, I want to see some MMA history podcast stickers on some cars that aren't mine.
Yeah. That'd be nice. You know what's cool though? Our numbers are going up, believe it or not.
They are.
Yeah, they're going up. I wish they went up a little bit higher, but we're revamping right now. We're bringing in a guy for YouTube. In theory, he hasn't done a single thing for us yet, but like none of the warning signs are going off.
Right.
You and I had a conversation with Karimi. I have a feeling he's going to come on, and what we're going to do is we're going to be running different content on YouTube as we do our Instagram, which is what most successful people do. Our guy, Andy Campbell from Martial Mindset, is talking with some guys in Europe about helping out with long-term, so we can maybe get 1 or 2 long-term documentaries knocked out a month as well.
Yep. The Marco Huas is in production right now. I did my part.
Did you? Okay. And Nathan Karimi is his name. He's out of the St. Louis area. The deal that he and I made, and these are his words, not mine. He goes, all right, let me get in with your YouTube, play with it for a little bit. If we can get it up to just like around $5,000, just 5 total grand on what I produce you, could we fly to Canada and find Harold Howard?
So he's as crazy as we are.
He's got children. I'm like, wait a minute.
And a very understanding wife, I guess.
Dude. I'm like, dude, we can do Brett Rogers too. I'll go into his tent. Like you can hear the screams, from the city sidewalk. You can hear me yelling, for help.
Yeah. We could do some interesting pieces like that.
So, and like when I explained to him, I'm like, you do realize like none of these are going to have good endings. And he's like,
right.
He's like, yeah, I know. Yeah.
God.
That's
Hey, this last week with the tank clips, we got like 35 comments from Ukraine. So, our Ukrainian listeners, we appreciate you. Keep the comments coming. Whether that's legitimately from Ukrainian people or not, I don't care. I'll take it.
Dude, who knows?
There's one guy messing with me. I like your style.
right. You know, he had some of those downloads. Hey, dude, by the way, that Tank Abbott week, I think here, subtracting YouTube, which is like 5x, 6x, then I think it's like 6x the number that I'm gonna say. But like, let's just say it's just Spotify and Apple, just two mediums right there where it's the actual podcast app. We broke 1,500 on those in the 7-day period, which puts us close to like 4%, top 4% out of all podcasts across the board. That's a good get.
Yeah. Nobody's doing what we're doing better.
I don't even know if anybody's even doing what we're doing. It kind of makes us niche-y, and the people contacting us, like our volume is getting there with people within the industry. Would you agree?
Right. Oh yeah. We're starting to get followed by a lot of insiders for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm getting asked about the podcast a lot, but it's like specifically when I'm in an MMA gym. So the people that know tend to listen.
Yeah. All right. I also got tracked on a couple of like mentally ill pro wrestling people.
Yeah.
They got Tank Abbott covered. I'm interviewing them tomorrow.
Oh,
in regards to vaccine guys who like just really good thick layers of what took place behind the scenes. I guess he pulled a knife out on a guy during a live match.
Wow.
Oh,
never heard that, but
no,
we'll find out about it.
Yeah, by the time this drops, we should have that recorded.
Yeah.
So, Joey, absolute pleasure. It's midnight here. I'm going to bed. All right, brother.
I'll see you next week.
Later.